name is Travis Taylor. I'm an optical scientist, aerospace engineer, and astrophysicist who's worked on many classified programs for NASA and the intelligence community for over 30 years. So I was invited to join a small team of scientists who were investigating a place called Skinwalker Ranch. Now, all I knew was that the ranch had been associated with some very strange UFO activity over the years. But nothing could have prepared me for what my colleagues and I were about to experience.
I do sense a presence here.
I get visitors, alien activity.
The cow is right here. I can't help but also notice there's something here.
You see the glow, the flicker?
Yeah, the whole top of the mountain is glowing.
The temperature around the homestead began to drop.
And there being beams of light coming up from the mesa.
Wow, I can't believe scientists are finally taking UFOs seriously. For decades, NASA has denied any allegations of extraterrestrials inhibiting our periphery. Finally, they're getting real scientists involved to prove the supernatural. Man, the History Channel is so awesome for doing that.
Wow. Look at their blatant
Hey,
use
is
of
that
their instruments,
PumpkinFoxx?
those stupid,
What's he doing
primitive
here?
bipedal apes. You know, as I watch the number of views in this video steadily approach 1 million, and I see all the credulous comments about the experiment outnumbering the skeptical ones, I can't help but ask, what is wrong with you guys? What the hell?
Whoa, Pumpkin, take it easy.
Don't tell me to take it easy. What am I doing? What have I been doing all my YouTube rants for?
Pumpkin, it's important when you disagree with someone's point of view to make sure that you fully understand it. As if I suddenly showed you a photo of a UFO above my house, you'd be right to immediately assume I had faked it with a little bit of digital editing. If I suddenly made a YouTube video making a big deal of how a beam of light was hitting my house from above, for no reason, you'd be right to suspect that there's a simple explanation for how that happened. But if I took my time and built the story up slowly, with little creepy anecdotes that are all specifically written to slightly emotionally bother you, all adding up to an undeniable outcome, and if I engaged you in an interesting story about all these events, you might find that my cheap tricks start to look more convincing. You would be seeing them in a specific context. Captain Disillusion called that trendy web content technique the piecemeal paranormal. It's when someone shares little tidbits about odd things they've been experiencing or experimenting with. Each individual anecdote is not that crazy, but over time, they get more interesting and add up to a disturbingly compelling paranormal narrative. And a compelling narrative often feels like compelling evidence.
However, this isn't just some internet video, this is a highly scripted TV show. Man, if only, say, 2 people could hypothetically come together, but maybe have one party, not me, write a whole script to show the show's cheap tricks and systematically go through the evidence the show provides to see if they all hold their weight, and have the other party, me, be there just to lighten the mood, as a comic relief of sorts.
Indeed, that would be hypothetically poggers, but hey, what are you doing here?
Oh, I was just ranting to myself on the effects of cognitive bias on these stupid primates. Anyways, what are you doing here, Lard?
Oh, I was just getting my daily dose of a psychotropic kick of cringe on a biochemical crutch. But hey, since you're here, you want to join me in showing the effects of cognitive bias on these types of heavily scripted, drama-focused, paranormal, pseudoscientific shows' lack of understanding of the basics of the scientific method?
I would, hypothetically, love to. So, where do we even start?
I guess on episode 1, yeah? Okay, so the show starts off in Utah's Utah Basin. It's the geological remains of the prehistoric Utah Lake, which formed in the late tertiary period around 2 million years ago.
Hey, I'm not sure where you're at on the property, but there's something going on.
Yeah,
out here.
no, wait.
Come over here and check it out.
We're only about 10 seconds in, and they already got something wrong. Other TV shows have been filmed on the ranch, such as Hunt for the Skinwalker 2018.
Fun fact, if you do some digging on the name Skinwalker Ranch, it was actually filed for trademark in 2017 by Brandon Fugal, the man behind the company Adamantium Real Estate, LLC, to of course capitalize on the subsequent shows that would follow, as well as the movies and books that would further enable them creative rights, and the monopoly of attraction that they would make for the place.
You know what? We are already a few minutes into this video, and we are only about 10 seconds into the show.
Yeah, you're right, I don't have time for this either. I'll cut to the chase, as I could spend several hours methodically talking about every subsequent detail in this god-awful show. Alright, to sum things up, this show is about a group of people that Frugal hired to secure the ranch. So they get in contact with some astrophysicist for some reason, and try to figure out the cause of all this.
Hey, y'all, I'd recommend not to touch it till we see if it's radioactive or not. What in the world? There's no cat tracks, there's no sign of struggle. Look at the meters just going crazy. Yeah. Jumping high, then it jumps back to zero.
I can only handle so much blatant disregard for the absolute basics of the proper use of instruments.
13, 14, we're at 15, 16.
Is it still doing it?
Is it 5? It's 18. It just jumped to 18 just then. Jim, are you seeing anything on the spectrum analyzer?
Actually, I am.
You are? What are you seeing?
Something down in the lower areas. So I'm getting some pretty high spikes. Some of the stuff like you saw yesterday.
See that?
What does this mean?
We don't know what it is, but we're seeing it with multiple instruments.
So this is something...
Something could be happening right now.
What does this mean?
We don't know what it is.
What does this mean?
We don't know what it is.
What are you seeing?
Something down in the lower areas.
What are you seeing?
Something down in the lower areas.
What are you seeing?
Something down in the lower areas.
What are you seeing?
Something down in the lower areas.
What are you
Going
seeing?
crazy. Jumping high, then it jumps back to zero.
Something down in the lower
Ooh, that's kind of small.
areas.
Yikes.
Out of the ordinary. We need to get out of here, guys.
Is there really a safe place on this ranch? We're quickly losing places that are safe to go on this ranch.
You serious?
Alright, it's time that we talk about their abhorrent use of and their blatant lack of regard for the scientific method.
Firstly, one of the main points in this show is a strange amount of high EMF signals on the property. When they are measuring EMF signals, they don't even have a control test. They don't even care to eliminate possible variables in their tests, as well as the cellular coverage in the area, which is something that the show goes out of their way to talk about how that can't be the cause, completely disregarding all the recording equipment from the equation.
We'll stop right here. This is probably the easiest place to access the top of the ridge. Climb the rest of the way.
So, it's coming from that direction. What is doing that? Look at that.
In fact, I can't imagine performing this test any more inadequately, as in science you try to eliminate as many variables as you can, so that you can be sure that your tests haven't been smudged. But here they haven't just smudged the tests.
They have poured pudding everywhere, and then went, yeah man, this is crazy. Man, I'm so scared right now. They're all mic'd up with wireless lavalier mics, as well as the fact they all have drones flying around, and they all have cell phones, all emitting signals. To give a better analogy, it's like if scientists were to go around lighting buildings on fire to see how fire-resistant buildings are, and then being shocked that for some reason there are a bunch of houses on fire. They're actually, unironically, just reading their own equipment.
Look at that. Sounds like it might be getting louder as we get higher. Let's go up the mountain and see what happens. Skinwalker Ranch is in the middle of nowhere, and I couldn't see a cell phone tower as far as I could see. I barely was getting a signal on my phone.
Right, so if you're barely getting a signal, then that means that there apparently is a cell tower somewhere. In fact, this statement about him not being able to see any cell towers is a really strange way to dismiss a possible variable that could potentially explain everything. This whole show is really predicated on the idea that this is some super remote location with no towers. But you can see how they use clever wording to keep the audience blind. Technically, nearly everywhere has no towers near it. However, everywhere has a distance to the nearest tower. So why couldn't you just say how far away the closest one is? I think it's apparently obvious that if they did that, then all the EMF signals would make sense, and they couldn't keep pretending that there's no way cell towers aren't doing this when you really know how laughably close the nearest one is. Check this out. My friend Spector helped me find a bunch. The nearest microwave tower is only 39 miles away, and that's within completely usable distance. Not only is this one quite close, but the whole ranch is in the middle of a triangle of microwave towers. However, that's only microwave towers. To find the cell towers, we have to take a closer look. because the cell towers are somehow even more laughably close. There are 3 cell towers, all under 5 miles away, with the closest being only 3 miles away. It's starting to seem like we have cracked the case. However, if you start doing the math with how radio signals will dissipate in power density following the inverse square law, it seems like this still isn't a good explanation for the EMF there. As Mike West pointed out, the canoe is a 5 kilowatt non-directional tower, and since it's 4 miles away, we use a 4-mile radius sphere, which following the sphere area formula, has a surface area of 520,687,000 meters. Then following the inverse square law, we divide our signal strength, S, by our surface area, 4 pi r squared, to find how strong our signal would be, and it's 0.00009600269 watts a meter squared. Then, using the metric table, we convert it to milliwatts by moving the decimal 3 places to the right. So the signal strength we should be reading is 0.009 milliwatts a meter squared, which is about 1,000 times lower than the 10 milliwatts a meter squared the show is getting. Welp, it seems like it must have been aliens then, or the dead Indians. No, just kidding, it's still their own equipment. We can use the same equation backwards to find how strong their wireless mics are, and if it turns out their wireless lav mics are within a range of 1 to 250 milliwatts, which is the range that wireless microphone transmitters operate at, then it means that it could be their equipment that they're reading. So we know that their transmitters are in their back pockets, with his tri-field meter in his hands in front of him while he is measuring. At most, the instrument will be a meter away from his back pocket. So we can plug it in and find the surface area of a sphere with a radius of 1 meter is 12.566 meters, then we multiply that by the 10 milliwatts a meter squared to find our output signal for the wireless lav mic is around 125.66 milliwatts, which falls right into the range that wireless mic transmitters can operate at. Although this isn't proof that their wireless mics are causing the EMF, the preponderance of plausible explanations I've laid out is certainly enough to dismiss the notion that this is out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary.
And there were no Wi-Fi routers.
Whew, man, that was a nice walk.
Hey, hand me that meter. What you're saying, Eric?
So we're at 4.5.
Which way?
This way.
Yeah, this was pegging out. Around, it's kind of along the ridge line. Yeah, I mean, it's a real strong signal.
What's it saying?
Dude, it's in the milliwatts per meter squared. I mean, that's a significant amount of energy right there. We went to the top of the mesa. And what we found was even more. The electromagnetic radiation that shouldn't be there. It's a real strong signal. Let's go up the mountain and see what happens. We went to the top of the mesa. And what we found was even more. The electromagnetic radiation that shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be there. We went to the top of the mesa. And what we found was even more. The electromagnetic radiation that shouldn't be there. It's a real strong signal. And at dangerous levels that could be harmful to humans. And at dangerous levels that could be harmful to humans.
Does this mean I'm safe?
And it's shifted now. Now it's coming from that direction.
Okay, so now we know that they're operating in the radio frequency range, and now we know what the power density is in the area. So power density is defined as power flow per unit area. We'll get back to this. To understand why a power density of 10 milliwatts per meter squared for any frequency between 20 megahertz to 6 gigahertz isn't dangerous, we first have to understand how the electromagnetic spectrum works. And we'll also have to explain how frequencies affect matter, and how the amplitude affects how strong the frequency is, and how the different amplitudes of said frequencies affect how the frequencies affect matter. So first, this is the EMF spectrum. A stream of massless particles called photons, each traveling in a wave-like pattern at the speed of light. Essentially, the wavelength will tell you its energy. A radio wave has a really long wavelength, so it has low energy, whereas gamma rays have a really small wavelength, and thus really high energy. And since all waves travel at the same speed, the speed of light, you can multiply the wavelength by the frequency and it will always equal c. Or to find the frequency of a particular wavelength, divide c by the wavelength in meters to find the frequency. This is due to the inversely proportional relationship, hence why the speed of light is called the speed of light. It's a constant for everything on the spectrum. Anyway, we're only talking about frequencies here. How many times an oscillation, aka wave cycle, passes a given point per second? Everything to the left, like radio frequencies or microwaves, are non-ionizing radiation. They simply don't have enough energy to break chemical bonds the way ionizing radiation can, like damaging your genes and giving you cancer, so everything to the left is safe. The only thing some of these lower energy frequencies can do is cause polar molecules like water to flip axis to try and match the wave, and thus molecular friction from this creates heat. The more amplitude for some of these lower frequencies, the more it inclines the water molecules to want to flip. This is the process of how microwave ovens heat up your food. However, microwave ovens operate concentrate at a kilowatt onto a 30 by 40 centimeter area, meaning that their power density is 8,330 watts a meter squared. Now their power density was only 10 milliwatts a meter squared, which is 0.01 watts a meter squared. The amount of heating you would get from this is so low to be basically negligible. To better demonstrate how not scary their readings are, the sun heats up Earth's surface with a power density of approximately 1,000 watts a meter squared. Now obviously it has some higher ionizing frequencies which makes it actually scary. However, the warmth of the sun you feel on your skin is what I want to contrast to show you how warm the radio waves are. And since the surface area of the average over 20-year-old human is about 2 meters squared, and since only half your body can be exposed at any one time to the sun, you'd basically be receiving the full 1,000 watts a meter squared of heating from the sun. So if you're scared of being warmed up by the 0.01 watts a meter squared, the amount of heat you would get from the sun is literally 100,000 times the heat you would get from the radio frequencies there. There is absolutely nothing to worry about over there. This is all using fancy equipment that the general public has no idea about, and showing scary sounding numbers from people with credentials to make you trust their judgment so that they can continue to sell their snake oil to you. In fact, what's that? Hang on. No, I've got breaking news coming in here. Apparently we have live footage of Travis Killer finding out that the sun is 100,000 times scarier than aliens, and this whole time he hasn't been wearing sunscreen. Travis, there's been a flying orb in the sky above you this whole time. It's right above you right now.
And it's all radiation.
Yeah, it's all RF.
Wow.
The level of microwaves there that we detected were much stronger than what you get from your cell phone or your Wi-Fi routers. And microwaves like that just don't exist in nature. So where was this microwave radiation coming from? Because I'd never seen that. I don't know. We've been here, what, an hour, and already found something that I don't have any idea what's going on. I don't understand it.
Warning, unprotected and unsupervised watching of this video may result in frustration, pulling of the hair, desire to punch your monitor, punching your monitor, permanent loss of IQ, irritation, self-mutilation, self-immolation, grinding of teeth, and death. Remember, you watch it, you can't unwatch it. You have been warned.
You guys should take a look at this, what's happening with Caleb's phone.
So what all is it doing?
Doing what it's done in the past. It goes into different apps. It's taken a couple screenshots. I don't have any control over it. It's shut itself off. It's turned it back on, and it just goes right past my passcode.
It's just instantly hacking that. That's almost technologically impossible to do, and it's doing it instantaneously?
Yep.
And Caleb's phone is really wigging out. It's like somebody has opened up his phone, unlocked the passcode, and is going through all of his apps, trying to dial random contacts. Currently, even the National Security Agency doesn't even have the technology to hack that kind of encryption. That is startling to me.
And it tried calling 911 and my dispatch number within a minute.
That startles me. So if you go to the exotic, then something here is crying out for help.
Or is it giving us a warning?
Triple logical fallacy grand slam. Travis Taylor, you win all these prizes. Apophenia, thinking of which phone is related to the digging/aliens correlation causation fallacy. Presuppositional fallacy, I'll cover this more later in the video. For assuming that no other cause is for the phone to do that, hasty generalization fallacy. False equivalence fallacy, since the NSA appeal to authority fallacy can't even hack a phone, then only super technology can. Affirmative consequent fallacy, taking a true conditional statement. If a phone is hacked, then the phone will flip out, invalidating and its converse. If a phone flips out, it must be hacked by aliens, non sequitur fallacy.
To be expected.
We will declare frankly that nothing is clear in this world. Only fools and charlatans know and understand everything. Isn't it quite ironic that the charlatans are telling us how charlatans act? Now normally I would agree with this, however they aren't just stating a fact about science, they're trying to use an aspect about science to promote their position. In the same way you don't need to know the wave function of every atom in a ball to know it's coming at you, you can make broad generalizations and still be right, as long as you know that your models are overly simplified. By saying that nothing is clear, they're trying to muddy the waters. They're trying to convey the message that there are some things that science can't explain, hence why they go to God.
Aliens.
I mean aliens, sorry.
Carl Sagan described a philosophy that so resonated with me that I adopted it immediately. He said that in science, the only sacred truth is that there are no sacred truths. Arguments from authority are worthless. Whatever is inconsistent with the facts, no matter how fond of it we are, must be discarded or revised. And that philosophy is vastly more honest than the one I just heard. And I think Sagan's philosophy distinguishes those who sincerely seek the truth from those who pretend as if they've already found it.
People have been exposed to technology from black programs, advanced state-of-the-art high-energy technologies developed in special access programs, non-lethal weapons programs, holograms, cloaking devices, drones. What's being witnessed at the ranch has a significant national security implications.
I think the only national security risk here is wasting time, money, and resources looking for things that apparently aren't there, as well as scaring the general public, making people stupider and distrusting the government that the show is promoting.
Whatever this is, it's far more complex than we ever anticipated.
It's actually quite the opposite. It's really simple. You can't follow a 4th grade level of variable control. So in a way, this statement is kind of true. It's kind of more complex than I ever could imagine. By not simply sticking to the scientific method, you have blown my mind with how diluted and irrational this whole thing is. How could people who call themselves scientists not follow the scientific method? That's truly the confusing, complex thing here.
Have any idea what this thing is. You've captured a UAP on camera. The secret of
If I remove the zoom in that they added, you can see how quickly it moves. This removes the possibility of it being in the midground or background, as if it were that big due to its momentum it wouldn't be able to move so quickly, meaning that this object must be relatively small and close to the camera. I wonder what this could be. Alright, fireflies. They light up, and since the camera that they are using is a night vision camera, which generally have a longer exposure time, leading to trailing effects, the camera that they are using is focused on the mid-background, making any objects in the foreground a blurry dot, just like in these firefly clips. Also, the night vision is making the footage blue, which is why everything in the image is blue. Anyways, I guess now we should get to the meat of their evidence and talk about all their other UFOs.
So I have the footage that I'd like to show you ready.
After Linda and the rest of the team finished checking out the remains of the dead cow, they joined Brandon, Dragon, and I in the command center, where Eric was eager to share with us something amazing he noticed in the surveillance footage.
The surveillance cameras captured the ordeal that this animal went through. Tom, the cow is right here. What we'll do is go forward very slowly and watch what happens with her.
Watch how she moves. It's interesting.
Now you see the cow starts to get up. And I'm going to do this very slowly, frame by frame, so we can watch what's happening with her. I can't help but also notice that there's something happening here.
Whoa, look at that. Look at that.
It looks like an object above the tree. It looks like an object above the tree.
And it happens right when the cow moves, raises up.
Wow! The cow just so happened to stand up right when the UFO flew overhead. It must be aliens.
Go back and show them where you first see it, Eric.
Okay, so this is where something else does enter the frame. The next frame, the object is here. The cow is trying to get up on her feet.
The cow reacted.
Right.
The moment that that object appeared above the cow was reacting.
Yes.
It's also funny when they show the clip, they don't show the full clip. They use clever editing zoomed in and only show 2 frames and never play the whole clip zoomed out.
I wonder why.
Oh right, it's obvious. If they were to play it in its entirety, it would be obvious that it's actually quite close to the camera and it isn't that far away object that they want it to be. Seriously, if you actually had real evidence of something unexplainable, wouldn't you want to just show the clip in its entirety? Seriously, why disguise and hide parts of a clip if it's real?
I don't know what you're talking about, Lard. The cow stood up right when the fly flew over it. I can't think of any other explanation besides aliens, or the Indians' curse did it. Or maybe some type of cat, horse, human hybrid.
And now we have this cow dying, and there's a strange object flying at really fast speeds above it.
Okay, one last time. These are small, but the ones out there are far away. Small, far away. Forget it.
This could be the start of actually an eye-opening experience and experiment. We might find something here that's a lot deeper than we think.
At first, when I saw this object, my rational mind tried to make sense of it. Tried to make it look like an airplane, or a bird, or a bug, or something. But the more I looked at it, the more I thought about it, it was not any of those things.
What was this craft doing? It was
Okay, right. So you don't think it's a bird or a plane, but why? 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 Explain your reasoning. You can't just say that it's not that after saying you thought about it for some time. That's not evidence for it not being those things.
What was this craft doing out there, and why every time it was dying was this craft in the sky? And it's very intriguing as to why these two events are taking place at the same time.
Here are 2 clips that give off the same energy.
This is perhaps one of the most well-documented events of such a suspicious and sudden cattle death on a ranch where activity of this nature is known to have taken place.
In Alien Invasion Tomato Monster Mexican Armada brothers, who are just regular brothers running in a van from an asteroid and all sorts of things, the movie.
This is perhaps one of the most well-documented events of such a suspicious and sudden cattle death on a ranch where...
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it up.
The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, investigating mysterious lights at UFO Ranch, Season 1 history.
How is it doing that?
We're pointing a laser toward the mesa where we've been detecting the abnormal amounts of radiation. But now, instead of seeing one laser spot like we should, we're seeing 2.
The actual laser spot that's coming back and hitting the camera is the little one. We need to go up there and look at it. We need to go up there and look at it.
Alright, Lard, let's get out of the cyber matrix and do some proper experiments in reality to show how fundamentally deranged from said reality this show is.
Alright. So I thought, just to highlight how crazy this is, the fractal wrongness, I decided just to do a quick little physical real-life model. That's camera A. It's basically parallel from this wall. You're about 8 feet away. This guy is camera B. He's at a little bit of an angle to the wall, like the footage we saw was. So I'm going to be shining my laser from over where camera A is, and then we'll see what camera B sees. And I'll do that same pattern of the weird hook thing. So this would be pretty accurate to how the show was filming it. And then I'll go to the other examples on why they're completely wrong about all the other things, but just a quick brief thing just to show how absolutely absurd this whole stupid situation is. I have my laser right here. Alright, so let me turn off.
I got the lights.
Alright, now I'm shining it directly at the wall.
Wow, a second dot.
And I'll do the little thing that was happening in the video.
Wait a second. Does that mean that there are aliens in this room?
No, as you can see, the second dot seems to mimic the original dot, rotating around the middle of the screen, its axis of rotation. I wonder why. Oh right, this is because it's an internal lens reflection. To put it simply, the middle of the lens is the axis of rotation because any internal reflection that bounces while coming in and rebounces hitting the top of the concave lens, making it cross-axis when coming down again towards the sensor, will make it seem as though that there are two lights. However, closer inspection will show that they are inversely mimicking each other around an axis of rotation. The second bounce will be doing the inverse of the original light path, and the former will be dimmer due to losses in light intensity from reflection. As you can see in this clip of a silver hemisphere bowl I found at a store, my camera's reflection in the bowl is parallel to my camera, as it's a direct reflection back to my camera, meaning my reflection's camera is the axis of rotation, and you can notice my finger's reflection follows my original finger inversely around that axis of rotation.
But now, instead of seeing one laser spot like we should, we're seeing two. The actual laser spot that's coming back into the camera is the little one. We need to go up there and look at it.
All right, let's go.
It's like walking on Mars or something. The rocks in the soil of the Skinwalker Ridge Mesa have an extremely high amount of some kind of crystalline material. So I'm wondering if there's a reflection happening up on the mesa that's causing the laser beam to split into 2 points of light instead of one. There are these little white discs everywhere. I don't know what it is. The laser experiment was inconclusive, but what we did discover with this experiment is that the mesa is highly reflective.
Alright, now again, just to highlight why this is such a bad idea.
Stop! He's already dead.
Imagine I'm the cameraman. The laser, right, is taking this path. What he's trying to say is that maybe the surface is just like shiny or something, right? Now, I don't have a shiny blanket or reflective blanket, but I do have this little mirror, and just pretending like that's a shiny surface should suffice. The problem is, the only way his hypothesis would work was if the canvas that the mountain was made out of was flat, right? Because if you had bumps in it, like this, and you had your laser bouncing off of it, kind of hard for me to show, but if you imagine these being 3 bumps, would have an area where it would be reflective, right? And let's say it did hit it, but essentially it'd be skipping over things, right? But on the video footage, you can actually see that not only does it hit everything perfectly, it also goes in front of where the sky should be. Here's the crazy thing. Even if this was flat, right? Why would it all rotate on where the center of the camera is? Is he really wanting us to believe that every time when it was doing that pattern, this U thing, does he really want us to believe that all these rocks here were orientated in this like cone shape so that they would reflect perfectly and like that? That's so crazy. All of his points to falsify his own observations are already easily false, just in your head thinking about it intuitively. This is fractal wrongness.
Is that the mesa is highly reflective. Highly reflective. Highly reflective. There's something to this place, I just don't know what it is.
Oh no, Geach!
But Lard, how do we know that it's not there because of your flat wall?
So we basically know for sure that it's just internal lens reflection, but now I'm going to use a little magnifying glass with a convex lens and a little piece of glass, put them together like a normal lens has, put it in front of the camera, and I'll just show again how there's another bounce. Same thing, but for camera B, I'm going to add, of course, this little array. Okay. So something like that. Oh wow, there's a lot of bounces now. Look at that. There are so many bounces. I wonder why. You know, oh, I think it's the surface must have all these pebbles in it that make it bounce. That's why this is happening. All right.
Now that's interesting, especially since we've seen in the past the mesa seeming to glow and there being beams of light coming up
from the mesa. There's something
no,
to this place. I just don't know what it is.
Can't see anything looking at it here.
You can only see them with the infrared camera.
The secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
That's odd. Let's try this. Fat lot of good that PhD does me now,
You can only see them with the infrared camera.
I asked for its permission to be here. I asked if I could give a blessing to the land, because this is the land which God has made. And it's the role of a rabbi, of course, to be a conduit of the blessings of God.
While he's doing the chant, I happen to notice that there's some kind of anomaly in front of the doorway of Homestead 2.
Shalom. Shalom Aleichem.
Eric, come here a minute.
You seeing something?
Look at the difference in the FLIR imagery now. It's completely changed.
I've not seen this do this before.
It shouldn't have changed that drastically all of a sudden. The FLIR imagery completely changed. It's like the canopy of the trees was super hot.
Okay.
And then everything underneath it where the house is, look at it, it's just completely cold.
Yeah, it's like in temperature layers now.
Wait, are you serious? Oh man, I hate to be so rude for laughing, but I learned about this when I was in the 4th grade. Although I had a great teacher, so I guess it's now my turn to enlighten you. Just in the same way my amazing 4th grade teacher, Mr. Bowe, did to me back not even a decade ago. Okay, so first, air is made out of particulate matter. This particulate matter varies in its density based on how quick its atoms are vibrating. The faster a collection of vibrating atoms are, the hotter it would be, and conversely the less density it would have, as all the atoms will be bumping into each other, expanding until it meets an equilibrium to the outside pressure. Once it becomes less dense, it would naturally rise due to the outside density being higher. Like a balloon underwater returning to the surface because of how heavy the water is relative to the balloon. This is referred to as buoyancy, and it's also the reason why hot air balloons work, with heated air expanding, making the craft rise till it can match its outside pressure. What we are seeing here is just a small building that has trees shading it from the sun and from drafts of warm air, which is keeping the air stagnant and continually cold.
The temperature around the homestead itself began to drop. It began to plummet.
These entities are always described as being very cold.
So what that means is suddenly the treetops are super warm and everything underneath it got super cool. Guys, look now, look right here. You see how the heat is coming down this tree and it's heating up around this area and it's creating this cold vortex in the middle suddenly. That is odd. And now it's heating up. Look, now it's heating up in the middle of it. Suddenly, the temperature over the homestead area turns extremely hot, and then it starts to fall, and it wraps around the homestead.
What happened for this drastic change, the thermal camera is really sensitive, is simply a gust of wind hit the house slightly, displacing the colder air to the outside. Currents of air moving over objects and transfer their vibrational energy, making the objects cold or hot. Check out this demonstration with the old firefighting thermal camera and a fan. I'm able to demonstrate something that should be apparently obvious if you've ever been outside.
Going up to 85.
85? Alright, hit the fan.
Drop down to 81, 79.
However, here's a much better example from Thunderfoot, who has a much better thermal camera. The heat from the lungs warms the air on exhale, and the cold air rushing past his filtrum and nares is what causes it to cool down. This is known as convection, and, in fact, they actually ironically prove this without even realizing it.
Alleged portals had been seen, and now we're seeing an anomaly through our FLIR camera after a rabbi does a ceremony to open portals. There's nothing going to keep me from going down there to see what's going on.
Hey, come here. Feel the difference.
Oh, wow. It's freezing right here.
It is freezing
absolutely cold right here. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, you are right in the center of that region.
It is freezing cold right here in front of the homestead.
I've stumbled
held on to a major company conspiracy, Mac. How about that for stress? What the hell are you talking about? This company is being bled like a stuck pig, Mac, and I got a paper trail to prove it. Check this out. Take a look at this.
Jesus Christ,
That right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay? Pepe Sylvia. This name keeps coming up over and over again. Every day, Pepe's mail's getting sent back to me. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. I look in the mail. Well, this whole box is Pepe Sylvia. So I say to myself, I gotta find this guy. I gotta go up to his office. I gotta put his mail in the guy's goddamn hands. Otherwise, he's never gonna get it. He's gonna keep coming back down here. So I go up to Pepe's office, and what do I find out, Mac? What do I find out? There is no Pepe Sylvia. The man does not exist, okay? So I decided, oh, shit, buddy, I gotta dig a little deeper. There's no Pepe Sylvia, you gotta be kidding me. I got boxes full of Pepe. All right, so I start marching my way down to Carol in HR, and I knock on her door and I say, Carol, I gotta talk to you about Pepe. And when I open the door, what do I find? There's not a single goddamn desk in that office. There is no Carol in HR. Mac, half the employees in this building have been made up. This office is a goddamn ghost town.
Okay, Charlie, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Not only do all of these people exist, but they have been asking for their mail on a daily basis. It's all they're talking about up there. Jesus Christ, dude. All of this was for nothing. God damn it, dude. I'm having a panic attack. I'm actually having a panic
Will you
attack.
settle down and have another cup of coffee?
I am, bro.
All right, well, fine. You know what, Barney? Give this guy a cigarette. He's freaking out.
Huh? Who?
Barney. He's the guy who tipped me off to Pepe Sylvia.
Barney? Who the hell is Barney?
You don't see Oh, shit. What the hell did he...
You've lost your mind. You've lost your goddamn mind, Charlie.
From the creators of Ancient Aliens.
Brandon Frugal is the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, and he joins us live. I've interviewed a lot of astronomers, and they say we've got hundreds and hundreds of cameras on the skies 24 hours a day, and we never see anything. Why is it that we should believe people who see things in the wilderness?
Yeah, good question. As seen on our show, we have truly documented unidentified aerial phenomena and other strange activity with high frequency at this particular location. We're using science and technology to not only document it, but also figure out really what is happening. Who's to say it's really aliens or beings from other worlds? It could be other dimensions. It could be time travelers. Who knows? All that we know is that there's continued strange activity, and it's being documented better than ever. Well, get ready. It's going to be jaw-dropping. You're going to see some of the best evidence ever presented in the public domain relative to the reality of a lot of this strange activity and the claims.
This is great stuff. I could make a career out of this guy. You see how clever this part is? How it doesn't require a shred of proof? And most paranoid delusions are intricate, but this is brilliant.
Oh, how could the History Channel air this nonsense?
Television channels like the History Channel are just like any other modern company, very corporatized. And corporatization in relatively liquid markets, such as the TV industry, breeds a correlation to wanting to min-max net profits, meaning they care more about profit than, well, about the content on the channel, which is why there are shows like Ice Road Truckers, Swamp People, Sliced, Ancient Aliens. The list goes on. Like seriously, what does a drama-based reality TV show about modern truckers have anything to do with history? It's obvious the History Channel cares more about viewership.
As sadly, real science is boring, and when you give these crazy answers, you incite fear into people and keep them coming back with the false pretense that this show is really scientific.
Even though their optical scientist doesn't understand a basic optical phenomenon.
And uses appeal to ignorance fallacies, as well as the God of the Gaps logical fallacy argument.
Alien of the Gaps argument.
Oh right, thank you.
Of course. And using science to promote metaphysical explanations isn't even a new concept. All of the hundreds of ghost hunting and paranormal television shows use scientific equipment, at best inadequately, or at the worst,
deliberately misleading,
to try and make the argument that we have proof.
Even though by definition, something that is metaphysical or supernatural defies natural law, meaning it defies the laws of physics, literally meaning it's physically impossible.
Indeed. Furthermore, this is not a scientific desire to learn more about reality. This is just wanting an easy explanation, such as aliens did it, or the cursed land did it.
In fact, every piece of evidence this show brings forth isn't even evidence at all. It's just something we can't explain. Or, well, funny, as I can, but they can't. So it's really just a group of people trying their best to find things they can't explain, then say, oh yes, God did it, or, sorry, aliens or something else. This is really no different than the initial proposals of the formation of the rainbow. That was a bridge between Earth and Asgard, a rainbow serpent who would suck up the water in the dry season to spit it out in the wet season. It's a bow that would shoot lightning, or in a popular myth book, promised by a powerful god never to destroy a world again by flood. However, while all these models account for the existence of the rainbow, they have zero predictive capability. They are poor models. Meanwhile, the application of science delivered by many critical and inquiring minds gathered and scrutinized the crushing body of physical evidence, and tempered by reasoned logic, they converged on the now robustly tested model that rainbows are formed by light refracted by water. Saying aliens did it, or God, etc., that's not an actual explanation. It's at the very best a placeholder for one. And whatever other faulty lines of reasoning the crappy shows are proposing to get their clicks and views up. Especially if the shows are dangling keys in your face telling you that the show is showing you the truth that no one else will.
The global public is not ready to have global confirmation of this. A lot of disturbing things will occur. It's just too powerful.
Have there been experiences there that have shaken the Pentagon and CIA and other agencies? Absolutely.
Nobody knows.
This is 30 or 40 hours of material that the public has never seen before.
Things that we recorded right after I purchased the ranch.
Now, just in case some people watching this are too dim to get it, or at least feign stupidity for the purpose of sophistry, the keys are metaphorical for how inadequately it totes for the veil of scientific adequacy.
Yeah, it's a great tactic for audience retention, because on a large scale, in a hypothetical population dynamic setting, if you had two shows broadcasted to similar numbers of people, the show with some sort of secret insight that's claiming it's the true red pill, and that everyone else is sheep, or like a blue pillar. It's no wonder why intellectually vacuous shows like these tend to prosper in our media.
It seems to sadly also work really well. Wait, what's that? What's going on? What's that noise?
Don't waste your breath. Watch me speedrun this.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
As if we even existed in a universe where optical reflections weren't the answer, and if we had no clue why the light was circling around it like that, asserting aliens did it is just as valid as saying that God did it.
Or the flying spaghetti monster. It's the question-begging logical fallacy.
For example, the statement, "green is the best color because it is the greenest of all colors," claims that the color green is the best because it is the greenest, which it presupposes is the best. It's the same thing when a stupid Homo economicus type ponders, what is the meaning of life? It's stupid, because it presupposes that life even has a meaning. Many hominids still don't understand the basic concept of how their own thoughts are organized by their pattern-finding brains, which is how featherless bipeds find their minds to be as stable as tripedal post-op dogs when it comes to pondering lengthily and exquisite detail, completely disregarding their obvious question-begging logical fallacies.
As no matter which angle we choose to approach this from, there's a viable explanation for this regardless. But there's an even more important point here, which is if none of these ideas had ever been considered, if none of the calculations had ever been done, if humans had no explanation, no idea how this happened, would that mean that there is no explanation?
Well, no, of course not. Us lacking an explanation for a phenomenon does not mean that the phenomenon can't be explained. It just means we haven't explained it yet. If all other data we know about the universe points to optical refractions and moreover that the universe is governed by natural laws, but we happen to have a couple outstanding questions like,
but why is there a second God?
Hey, that was Lard's line. Look, just please refrain from interjecting, conceptionist.
Anyway, continuing on what you said, we wouldn't just throw up our hands and assume it must be from aliens or some other equally redundant vestigial appendage explanatory concept.
That's not a way to learn about the world. It's a way to avoid learning about the world, as any unexplained thing can explain any other unexplained thing.
As someone who truly wants to learn, would see that all the evidence points towards a naturalistic universe, and therefore instead of begging the question of what supernatural thing caused this to happen, they would instead try to figure out if there are any parallels in data already observed, and would try to use past knowledge to build a better understanding of our world, instead of the presupposition garbage that these lines of malformed reason lead to.
Man, these homo interrogants are so intellectually lazy. So stupid. I can't bear this anymore, Lard.
Hey, they aren't stupid.
I would beg to differ, as when I say stupid, what I mean is, it's never what you think that proves you're stupid, it's why you think it, and being a complete fool with your equipment is not the sort of why that would lead me to think that you're smart. But here's something very important for you to understand about my opinion here. Stupidity is not a permanent condition, it's a way of thinking that you've learned, or at least not learned to avoid. So when I call someone stupid, it means they're exhibiting certain kinds of failures of thought. 1. A failure to identify and ask all relevant questions, and notice incomplete or irrelevant answers to them.
2. A failure to recognize patterns while excluding false positives.
3. A failure to adequately generalize principles without overgeneralizing.
4. A failure to correctly distinguish between distinct, even subtly distinct concepts, and conversely a failure to recognize when seemingly distinct concepts are actually identical in their relevant features. Things like that. All sorts of things might promote these failures of thought, religious indoctrination just being one of them, although a very widespread and effective one. But I'm not convinced that the basic cognitive ability needed to succeed at these critical thinking tasks is an inbuilt feature of some people and not others.
Excluding people with genuine cognitive impairment, of course, the problems we have listed don't take a rare genius to avoid, just exercising a little care is enough, as every single one of us is going to have those moments where we get a little sloppy, and we act stupid. We believe something that isn't properly justified, we don't believe something that is, we get emotional, we don't listen to reason, whatever. You can't make yourself 100% not stupid, but stupidity is something that you can minimize with a little determined practice.
But to do that, you're going to have to internalize the fact that you can and will be wrong at times, and you'll have to be willing to change or even outright abandon any opinion you hold when you receive valid criticism of your evidence or evidence to the contrary.
We had to go into our heads, through every step in detail. We had to go into our heads. Total explosion upon ignition. Failure is always an option. When we fail, we've learned things. Information is key. It never ceases to amaze me.
This can be really uncomfortable at times, but it'll help you be less wrong more often. In other words, it can take real commitment to learning the truth, even if that truth is emotionally unappealing or goes against something you spent a long time believing, or if it's the exact opposite of everything you've ever hoped was true.
But the unfortunate fact is that humans being human don't always hold the truth as being more valuable than their ego or their feelings. Speaking of ego or feelings, I don't think that they're actually stupid, as it seems this guy is an optical scientist. Like, just look at all the places where he's worked at. He is doing this because he is a science fiction author and has a conflict of interest that is making him cognitively biased in this. It's like when every religion lies, promote God. Even if they are telling a lie and know it, they still feel good as it's the end goal that matters, being that you go to heaven or whatnot. The purpose of this video is to show how the TV show from the History Channel, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, is just like any other ghost paranormal TV show. It all relies on drama, it's clearly scripted, it doesn't bring any new scientific information to the table. Furthermore, to show the evidence for this show's misrepresentation of science and the scientific method. As science is all about making models of reality with predictive capability, and there is a clear absence of that on the show. The show puts on a scientific mirage, with figures such as Travis Taylor being utilized solely to appeal to ethos
and authority. On top of this, science is only used for illusionary purposes to deceive their gullible audience into believing into their false credibility. It's as if I were to tell you a story and get you all emotionally invested in it. Then I start laying out evidence in a manner that relies on the initial story, and all the subsequent evidence I provide to you seems to all point to aliens or the paranormal being responsible. You might actually start to believe me.
Thankfully, we live in a world where evidence matters more than your mere subjective feelings. Hitchcock's razor determines that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, of which the show absolutely falters to bring forth, to such a high degree that even if supernatural things did exist, which they can't because of, again, of the aforementioned little details like the laws of physics and thermodynamics. Anyway, this show would still be absolutely wrong, as they haven't shown anything paranormal or extraterrestrial. In fact, shows like these can have the exact opposite effect, as again, even if hypothetically otherworldly things did exist, this show was managed so poorly that it would harm the credibility of any real evidence that the show could actually bring.
But that's okay, as the show hasn't even brought anything. Oh, that removes some neurons from my head.
Oh, I know, right? Gotta love my species.
Good thing those were all Homo habilis.
I hate to break it to you, and don't think less of me for showing the same monophyletic clade, but those are actually Homo sapiens.
You're joking.
No, sadly.
Oh man, that show was truly stupid.
No, deliberately misleading.
No, stupid.
Deliberately misleading.
No, stupid.
No, deliberately
stupid.
The true beauty of a self-inquiring, sentient universe
is lost on those who elect to walk
the intellectually vacuous path of comfortable,
paranoid fantasies.
That we live in a multi-dimensional universe, that we are not alone, that we may be interacting with other entities, other intelligences.
But hey, that's just reality. Our reality. And cut.